my name is Krystal Everdeen, and today I'm going to show you how to crochet this summer dress. Now this is the very first crochet dress that I've ever made, so there is a lot of room for improvement, but I tried my best to make it as clear as possible and the design as simple as possible, so this tutorial could be super easy to follow. However, with that being said, the beginning of this tutorial is going to go a little bit fast because the first step of making this summer dress is to make a basic halter top, and I have a whole video on how to make a halter top, and it goes nice and slow. It's super beginner friendly, and I will leave that in the description box below. And I did this because I did not want this tutorial to be over an hour long, but if you do need a more beginner friendly version of how to make a halter top, that again is in the description box below. You can go ahead and watch that and then come back to this one. But I am still going to cover the basics on how to crochet a halter top. It's just going to be a little bit fast, and then after that I'll show you how to make the rest of the dress in a much more beginner friendly manner. Alrighty then, let's get started. For this project I'm using size 4 yarn from the brand I Love This Yarn, and it is in the color Antique Teal, and I actually needed 2 of these to complete this project. I am also using a size 5mm hook. Oh yes, and also the yarn is 100% acrylic. And the very first thing that you're going to do in order to make the top portion of this dress is you're going to start off with a slip knot. And from that slip knot, you're going to chain a chain that is long enough to cover from one side of your rib cage to the other. And what I mean by that is chain a chain that is long enough to cover from this side of your body all the way over to this side. And that's going to serve as the base of your halter top. So make sure that you chain a chain that's long enough to cover that portion of your body. And then what I do is once I think I'm done with the chain, I just put it against my body like this and measure out to see if it fits me well, and if it fits me like this, then it's good, and that's how I know that I'm done. And I don't really go by number of chains or number of stitches or anything. I just go by how it looks when I put it against my body. So after that, you're going to go back on your chain making double crochet. And if you are unfamiliar with what a double crochet is, or if you're a complete beginner to crochet, I actually have a Crocheting for Beginners video that I will link in the description box below. But all a double crochet is yarn over, through the stitch, yarn over, back through the stitch, and you're left with 3 loops on your hook. So you're going to yarn over, go through 2 of those loops, yarn over, and go through the last 2 of those loops. And that's what a double crochet is. Again, it's yarn over, through the stitch, yarn over, back through the stitch, yarn over, through 2 loops, yarn over, through the last 2 loops. And one more time, yarn over, through the stitch, yarn over, back through the stitch, yarn over, through 2 loops, yarn over, through the last 2 loops. And that's what a double crochet looks like. And double crochet is the stitch that we're going to be using throughout the entire project. So again, it's just yarn over, through the stitch, yarn over, back through the stitch, yarn over, through 2 loops, yarn over, through the last 2 loops. And you're going to continue making these double crochets throughout the entire row. So go into all of the chain stitches and make a double crochet within them until you reach the very end. Make sure they go into the very last chain, and then once you do, you're going to chain 2 and then flip the project over, go into the first stitch of the next row with again a double crochet. So yarn over through the stitch, yarn over back through the stitch where you're left with 3 loops, yarn over through 2 loops, and yarn over through the last 2 loops. And that's how you build on top of the previous row. And you're just going to go into all of the stitches for the rest of the row and make a double crochet on top of it. And just like the previous row, we're going to go into all of the stitches with a double crochet. Now note that at the end of each row, we're going to chain 2 and then go into all of the stitches. And we're only going to do this for a couple of rows, and then we're going to change it up a bit. But as for now, every time you reach the end of the row, you're going to chain 2, flip the project over, and then go into the very first stitch of the next row and all of the stitches within that row until you reach the very end, making sure that you go into the very last stitch as well, and then chain 2, flip the project over, so on and so forth. And I only made 5 rows of this because I am rather short, so I don't need to make as many, but if you are taller or maybe even shorter than me, then you may need to make more or less rows. The way you will know that you're done with this portion of the halter top is when you put this part of the project against your body, and it covers from right below your belly button to your rib cage. And once it does, now it's time to make it more triangular as opposed to rectangular. So at the end of the row now, you're only going to chain 1, go into the very first stitch as normal, but then skip over that second stitch and go into this third stitch right here. So skip over that second one, go into this third one, and create a double crochet. Woohoo! Now what you just did here is you decreased. This is called decreasing. And basically what that means is you're decreasing the number of stitches per row, and the way that you're doing that is you're skipping a stitch, so now this new row has less stitches than the previous row. And the reason that we need to decrease is again because we do not want this project to be square, we want it to be triangular. So at the end of each row you're going to chain 1, go into the very first stitch, skip over that second stitch, and go into this third stitch. And then go into all of the stitches for the rest of the row. So you're only going to skip that second stitch in every row, at the beginning of every row. And that's going to slowly start to pull the project in. You may not see it at first, but after a couple of rows, it'll become more noticeable. So make sure you go into all of the stitches, including the one at the very end, and then you're only going to chain 1, go into the very first stitch, make that double crochet, and then skip over that second stitch, go into the third stitch, make that double crochet, and then go into all the stitches after that. And again, you can't really see it at the beginning, but it is making a difference. And after a number of rows, then you'll start to see that it's starting to look more triangular. Right here you could barely tell, but once I make more rows, then you could really tell the slant is more significant. This is the part that's more rectangular, and then this is the point when we started decreasing, and now you can see that it's starting to look more like a triangle, and that's exactly what we want. So you're just going to continue with this pattern until you put the project against your body and it fits you well. So this halter top should fit you from around your waist all the way up to your collarbone. And once you put the project against your body and it fits that manner, it covers you from your waist to your collarbone, then that's when you know that you're done with this portion of the project. However, we do have a couple of things we need to add before we move on to the bottom portion of the dress, and that is the straps. And the straps are super easy to make. Just go from where you left off at the very top of the halter top and chain a very long chain. My chain is 175 chains, and the reason it is so long is because it's going to wrap across my back and then kind of have a little bit of a corset design or lace-up design. So it needs to be going back and forth. That's why the strap needs to be very long. And again, depending on your size, it may require more or less chains, but just for a reference, I chained 175. And then once I was done with that chain, I went back on that chain with a slip stitch just to make the chain a little bit thicker, because I found that when you make straps that is just one single chain, they're really thin, and after a while they start digging into your skin and hurting. But if you slip stitch through the entire chain. It is a little bit thicker and it doesn't hurt you, or at least it doesn't hurt me, but that's the reason why I do it. And also it's a way for me to work my way back down to the top and not have to detach the yarn from the yarn ball to make my other strap. And I also like to do something a little bit extra. You don't have to do this. You could again just detach the yarn from the yarn ball and then make another strap on the other side. But I like to single crochet my way around the entire halter top until I reach the other side right here, and then I make my second strap. Again, you don't have to do this, but it's just what I like to do. So from here, I grab the halter top and just start single crocheting my way along the edges of the halter top. And there's no specific stitches that you're like supposed to go into. I just find any opening and I single crochet within it. And another reason why I do this is because the single crochets make the edges nice and smooth and even, as opposed to the jagged edges of the raw project. I mean, it doesn't look horrible, but I feel like it looks much better with the row of single crochet all along the entire top. So again, I'm just going to single crochet all along the top until I get to the other side where I can make my second strap. And once I'm at that point, I'm going to make my second strap of 175 chains and then go back on that chain with a slip stitch. And now I'm at this point. So a quick summary of what I just did. I started from up here and made the strap. That's where I had left off when I was crocheting. And then I single crocheted my way along the side right here, and then along the bottom, and then along this side all the way to the top, and then that's where I made my second strap. And once I was finished with my second strap, then, well, you know, I'm at this point. And now all I need to do is cut the yarn from the yarn ball and lace up the straps. So I'm going to grab one strap from one side and then bring it over to the opposite side and attach it to the bottom portion of the top. And I'm going to attach it a couple inches above the very bottom of the top. And I'm going to bring it through with my hook and then with my hand. And then I'm going to stretch it on over to the opposite side again and then attach it to kind of the middle portion of the top. And I'm going to bring it through with my hook and then with my hand. And then I'm going to stretch it across to the opposite side and then attach it to the bottom portion of the top. And I'm going to bring it through with my hook and then with my hand. And voila, it's nice and attached. So now I'm going to do the exact same thing, just on the opposite side. So I'm going to grab the other strap, bring it over to the opposite side, and then attach it to the bottom portion of the top, a couple inches from the very bottom. And then I'm going to bring it through with my hook and then with my hand, and I'm going to try my best to keep it even with the opposite side. And after I have done that, then I'm going to reach across to the other side and then attach it to the middle portion of the bottom portion of the top and then bring it through. Then finally reach across one last time and attach it to the very bottom portion of the bottom of the top. And there you go. We're nice and done with the halter portion of this project. So now all you have to do is tie it together, and then you're done with the top of the dress. Wonderful. Now we're going to move on to making the skirt portion of the dress. And in order to do that, you actually need to try on this halter top and make sure that it's at a point where when you put it over your head, it fits over your shoulders. So although it looks like I just tied my halter top together, just like really small, I actually went back and loosened it because I needed to try it on and make sure that it's able to fit over my shoulders, and then I kept it that way. Hopefully you understand what I mean. Basically, if you try it on right now, it fits over your shoulders without you having to loosen anything, and that's very important because this gap right here, that's going to be your skirt portion. And it's not going to stretch. So you need to make sure that it's wide enough for you to actually be able to put on. And after you have established from what point to what point is wide enough for you to put the project over your shoulders, then you're going to fill in that gap with a long chain, as I just did right here. So for one side to the other side, you're going to make a chain that covers that gap. And once you've made a chain long enough to cover this gap right here, then you're going to attach it to the opposite side. Again, this gap should be wide enough so that if you try it on the halter top right now, you should be able to put it over your shoulders, no problem. It is going to fit you wide, obviously, but that's what the straps are for. You could always make it smaller, but you can't always make it bigger. So make sure that you're able to actually fit into this. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to actually put your dress on. So yeah. Once you have a chain to chain that's long enough to reach from one side of the halter top to the other and fill in that gap underneath the straps, then you're going to attach that chain with a double crochet, and there you go, nice and attached. So now you're pretty much working in a giant circle for the rest of the project, and that's how you're going to make the skirt. So again, this is what it looks like. And you're going to be going around and around and around. Again, this area of the dress right here, it should be able to go over your shoulders. If this is too small and you can't put this over your shoulders, then you need to loosen up the straps and make the chain longer. Very, very important. Okay, so from here it's very easy. I'm just going to double crochet my way around the entire project in a circle. So I'm going to go into every stitch and make a double crochet, and then once I reach the 10th stitch, I'm going to create 2 double crochets within that stitch. And once I have gone all around and now I'm at the point where I created that chain, I'm just going to make double crochets within that chain, and that's going to be part of the overall circle project that we are creating, aka the skirt. Now again, make sure that you make 2 double crochets every 10th stitch, because this dress is going to have a circle skirt as opposed to being a bodycon dress. So in order for it to be a circle skirt, you need to increase the number of stitches in every row. So that's why we're making 2 double crochets every 10th stitch. And again, all you need to do is make 9 double crochets, 1 in every stitch. And then on the 10th stitch, you're just going to make 2 double crochets within the same stitch. And that's all it is. Very easy. See right here, this is going to be the 2nd double crochet inside of 1 stitch. And yeah, so you're just going to continue with that pattern. And then little by little, you'll be able to see that your project is starting to ruffle, which is exactly what you want, because again, this is going to be a circle skirt, and that's what circle skirts do. They ruffle a little bit. However, if you notice that it's ruffling a bit too much for your liking, then you can cut back and maybe make 2 double crochets per 1 stitch every 20 stitches as opposed to 10 stitches. It totally depends on your preference. For me, it worked out where every 10 stitches I increase by making the 2 double crochets inside of 1 stitch, and you know, that's how my project came out. It looks pretty nice to me. However, you may want less ruffle, you may want more ruffle. If you want it to ruffle even more, then maybe switch it up and make 2 double crochets inside of 1 stitch every 8 stitches or every 5 stitches if you want it super ruffly. So it's totally up to you. So again, once you have completed your first row of double crochet all across, making sure that you increase every 10 stitches, then your project should look something like this. And it's super easy. Again, you're just going to go around and around and around with the same pattern, whichever one you choose. The increasing every 10 stitches or every 20 stitches or what have you. Try out increasing every 10 stitches first, and then you can decide from there whether you would like to increase more often or less often. Again, increasing more often will result in a more ruffly skirt, and increasing less often will result in a less ruffly skirt. It's going to be more of a bodycon dress, or like really small as opposed to flared out like mine is. And yeah, that's all I'm doing. I'm just going around and around the bottom of this project, which is a giant circle, and then making 2 double crochets inside of 1 stitch every 10th stitch to consistently increase in every row. That way each row will get bigger and bigger, and the skirt will flare out wider and wider as it gets longer. And yeah, that's really it. So here I'm done with my second row, well, almost done with my second row. I'm going to make a row of double crochet on top of the first row of double crochet that is on top of that chain that we created. And this would probably be a really good time to retry on the project. Make sure that it's able to go over your shoulders and fit over your body, because you don't want to make the entire skirt and then try it on and realize that you don't fit. So make sure that you're able to put this on right now before you spend hours making the skirt and then realizing that it's too small or maybe even too big. So yeah, just try it on really fast and make sure that it fits you right. It's able to fit over your shoulders, and then once you're able to put it over your shoulders and you actually like put the halter top on and then see how wide the skirt's going to be, you like that too, because you don't want to do what I did and make the entire skirt and realize that it doesn't fit you, so you have to unravel it. I had to unravel it twice because I was stubborn and didn't double check that it would fit me right. So yeah, just a word from the wise here. Just double check. It's totally worth it. Saves you a bunch of hours. Okay, so again, all I'm doing is the same exact thing. Every 10 stitches, I am making 2 double crochets inside of that 10th stitch, and just going around and around and around the entire project. I mean, this is only the second row, but pretty much that's all I'm doing for the entire rest of the project. Just going around and around, little by little, growing that skirt row by row. And although you can't really picture it right now, it just kind of looks like a weird addition to the halter top. After probably like 10 rows, then you'll definitely start to see the skirt trying to form. I mean, right now you could already see it starting to ruffle, which is exactly what we want, because again, this style is going to be more of a circle skirt as opposed to a bodycon dress. So ruffling like this is a good sign. And I'm just going to continue with that pattern. Nothing really exciting or different for the entire rest of the tutorial. So yeah, but I'm just going to show you my progress little by little, so you have an idea of what it looks like, or what it should look like if you're following my exact pattern, because again, you could always change it up if you want to. So this is a couple rows in. You can see slight ruffling, and now I'm just going to continue doing what I have been doing. Yeah. Okay, so a couple more rows into it, and this is what the project looks like. Really not too much ruffling in the front for some reason, but more ruffling in the back. I don't know how that worked out, since it's every 10 stitches, so it should be even, but when I put it on, it looks good, so I guess it's not a big deal. So yeah, this is what it looks like a couple more rows into it. And if you're wondering what it looks like when I hold it up, this is what it looks like when I hold it up. I think it looks really cool. I mean, you could even stop here and make one of those blouses that have the little skirt around the waist. You know which ones I'm talking about. I mean, you can make this already, a blouse. But if you want to continue making this entire dress, then you got to keep going and make sure that the skirt is long enough to cover everything. But I just thought it was funny how it already looks like a completed project right now, kind of like those blouses that, again, have like a little mini flare to them right at the waist. But anyway, just continue making rows and rows and rows of double crochet and increasing every 10th stitch, and eventually you'll be done with the skirt. Try on the project, make sure that 1, it fits you, and 2, it's able to cover everything, and once it does, then you are completely done with the project, and all it was double crochet. Yay! Super duper easy, but really time consuming, but totally worth it in the end, I think. Again, this was my very first dress that I've ever made, and I thought it was actually pretty easy to make, but it did take me, well, honestly, it took me a week to make, but that's because I worked on it a couple hours here, a couple minutes there. So I really don't know how long it took me to make if I were to just sit down and make it all in one go. But yeah, I would have to say it's rather time consuming. And then if you are taller than me, it will take you even longer because you need to make the dress longer. Luckily, I'm short, so I guess it saves me time. But if you're going to make this for a child, then this should be super easy for you to make, and you should be able to make it within a couple hours in one sitting for sure. But regardless, I hope you find this tutorial helpful and you are inspired to make a dress of your own. I know you could do it. If I'm able to do it, you can do it for sure. So anyway, once you have completed your dress, you're just going to cut the yarn from the yarn ball and then seal the project by bringing the excess yarn through the last loop, and then I kind of tuck it in like this. Just in case I need to unravel it for any reason, I have some excess yarn to work with, but you could just cut off this excess yarn if you want to. And after you have done that, then you're completely done with the project, and now it's time for you to try it on and rock it, because I'm sure it looks super awesome. And if you do recreate this dress, then I would really, really love to see it. Please share it with me on Instagram, and my Instagram handle is @Krystal Everdeen. And if you tag me in a photo of any of the crochet tops or crochet projects that you create from any of my tutorials, then you will have a chance of being featured on my Krystal Everdeen crochet account, and it's a fun time. So I would really love to see your projects. If you like this video, be sure to check out any of my other crochet tutorials. I have lots of them, and I'm sure you really like those as well. Again, I also have some links in the description box below for crocheting for beginners, how to crochet a halter top, and so on. Please, if you found this video helpful, interesting, or entertaining, to give this video a thumbs up. It really helps me out. And also click that red subscribe button if you have not already, so I can see you next time. Bye!